Howdy swim fans, here with another episode of Whiteboard Wednesday. And on today's episode, we're learning how dynamic interval workouts are created. To understand a dynamic interval, we have to understand the interval. And this is super important because workouts really need to be personalized to each individual swimmer, and no two swimmers are made the same. We all have different skills, goals, and swimming background that make it really important that we get our workouts personalized to how fast we are. So today, we're going to understand how the interval is actually created within the MySwimPro app, and to understand that, we need to understand how the dynamic intervals actually work. So, let's look at the actual interval. So I have an example set, 6 100s freestyle on the 130. We're going to focus in on the 130, so that is the actual interval itself. Now if you remember, an interval equals your swim time plus your total rest time. So if we take the example of 6 100s freestyle on the 130, the interval is the 130, and let's say you swam this 100 meters in 1 minute and 15 seconds. That means your total rest time would be 15 seconds. Now this 130 is dependent on how fast the swimmer is. And if you want to think about how this 130 is actually calculated, it's based on a few different factors. Now the data that we use in calculating a dynamic interval is a number of different things, including the number of repetitions, the distance, the stroke type, the energy zone that the particular set is prescribed in, as well as the MySwimPro secret sauce. And so we use our algorithm to actually dynamically generate these different intervals. So if we have a set to look at how this actually works, I have two swimmers. So I have Sarah and I have James. Now, the workout written on the board is actually the exact same workout for both swimmers. The only difference is the dynamic interval on each of the different sets. So Sarah is a faster swimmer than James, and to put numbers behind that, Sarah's 500 freestyle time in meters would be about 5 minutes and 30 seconds. So Sarah is a pretty fast swimmer, and that's a competition time. So her warm-up of 6 100s freestyle will be on the 130. Her 450s kick are on the minute. If we look at contrast that with James, James is doing the same 6 100s on the 2 minute, while Sarah was on the 130. If we look at the kick, Sarah's doing the 450s kick on the minute, and James is doing his 450s kick on the 120. So again, the dynamic interval is based not only on how fast they are within freestyle, but it depends on the stroke type as well. And if you look at the MySwimPro app, each different stroke type has a different time that you can enter, so that way we know exactly how fast you are, and we can use all the other variables, including the number of repetitions, the distance, the stroke type, the energy zone, and mix it with our secret sauce, so that way we can generate the interval that's most appropriate for you. If we look at the main set, 4 100s IM, Sarah's going to do it on the 140, and James is going to do the 4 100s IM on the 210. The 300 pull, Sarah's going to do it on the 345. Meanwhile, James is doing the 300 pull on the 530. So this is a 115 pace per 100, and James is doing the 300 pull on the 150 pace per 100. Moving to the last part of the main set, 4 100s freestyle on the 120. So this is, again, this is the main set. This is probably in the threshold zone, whereas the warm-up was maybe in the endurance or easy zones. So Sarah's on the 120, and then James is on the 150. And look at our cooldown, 450s freestyle. Sarah's on the 50, and then James is going to be on the minute. The thing that's really interesting is the fact that both Sarah and James can do the exact same workout, but it's personalized to how fast they are and what their goals are. So Sarah's 2100 meter workout will only take her 38 minutes. The difference is James is not doing the intervals quite as fast, so his 2100 meter workout is going to take 49 minutes. Now this is, again, really important to understand that the dynamic intervals on all of these different sets are created based on how fast the swimmer is. If you have a swim coach, the swim coach can automatically create these times because they know how fast you are. You might have also seen people do different test sets, and this is a really common training element in swim workouts that are structured, whether it be masters or on a club team. You do these different test sets to really test your body so that you can understand how fast can you go on 4 100s IM or 4 100s freestyle. And we'll do a whole nother Whiteboard Wednesday just on test sets. But this gives you an idea of how dynamic intervals work, the different data points that we use to create the dynamic interval. But really, it should come down to your aerobic threshold. So that is, how fast are you swimming over the course of a period of time? And in the MySwimPro app, we use a 500 for freestyle, we use 100 for kick, and IM, and breaststroke, and backstroke, and butterfly. And by using the aerobic threshold, that's what we use to generate these dynamic intervals. So if you have any questions about not only dynamic intervals, interval training, aerobic threshold, or anything else, swim training terminology, or within the MySwimPro app, please leave them in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Whiteboard Wednesday, and we'll catch you on the next one. Happy swimming!